that is spreading positivity around the world by sharing inspiring life experiences. I am thrilled to kick off today's show with a truly remarkable guest, Dr. Mary Kelly, an esteemed economist, prolific author, and CEO of Productive Leaders. With a career spanning leadership in 19 countries and the author of 18 influential books, Dr. Kelly brings a wealth of practical wisdom and motivational strategies to our platform. Get ready to be inspired as we delve into her journey, her insights on leading multicultural teams, mastering financial management, overcoming procrastination, and much more. So, grab your favorite drink, settle in, and prepare to be motivated and enlightened by the incredible Dr. Mary Kelly. Let's dive in. Hello, Dr. Kelly, and welcome to Podcast with Sheila.
Hello, Sheila. I'm so excited to be with you and your wonderful audience.
Definitely. In summary, who is Dr. Mary Kelly? Where does she come from? A little background story before we set the ball rolling.
I grew up in Texas in the United States, and I started working very early. My parents were both hard workers. I started working with my dad's business when I was about 7 years old. I would work trade shows with my dad. All of us did. There were four kids. And I started working early. I started paying Social Security taxes very, very early with a real job. You could do that back then. And when I left high school, I joined the Navy. I went to the Naval Academy, and then I had a full career in the United States Navy. While I was in the Navy, I had the opportunity to lead teams, to run business offices, to run shipyards and bases, and that allowed me to get some great experience running things. And a normal business is a lot like running the military. You have to deal with people, logistics, budgets, big buildings, big movements, and I got great experience that way. So now I'm very fortunate to be the CEO of Productive Leaders, and along the way I did some university teaching. And what I found was my university students were desperate to find out, how do you go from being poor to not poor? And
Wow.
that's the book Money Smart, and I think we should maybe talk a little bit about that.
Definitely. With your rich background, I believe you're going to learn a lot from you in this episode. This episode happens to be, well, actually, you happen to be my 100th guest. Yeah. Since I started interviewing people on Podcast with Sheila. So I'm excited about it. I'm also excited about the things we're going to be talking about today. So let's get on with it. With your extensive experience leading multicultural teams across 19 countries, what key lessons have you learned about fostering collaboration and productivity in diverse settings?
So I made mistakes as a young leader. We mostly do. And some of the things that I wish I'd been better at was, I wish I had been slower to talk and faster to listen, number one. Number two, I wish had uh, not I wish I had not been quite so quick to make some decisions, but I wish I'd made other decisions faster. We always think we're going to get all the information we need to make good decisions, but the reality is you only have about an 80% solution at any time. And then you have to make the best decision with the information you have in that moment. And so you ask other people, you talk to your people, you listen to your people, but at the end of the day, you still have to make the decision, and sometimes that decision is going to be wrong. And then what do you do when you've made the wrong decision? Well, you have to make it right. And you have to go back to your team and say, I screwed up. And you don't get to go back to your team and say, the reason I screwed up is because you all gave me bad information. You can't do that. When you're the person in charge, the buck stops here. You have to take responsibility for everything you do and the outcomes of your teams. If the team does everything great and you're successful, they get all the credit. If anybody screws up, you take the blame. That's how this works. And the military was pretty good about teaching us that. The other thing is, your job is to protect your people, promote your people, and make sure that you are covering for them when something goes wrong. Your main job is to support your people. Even if they're wrong, even if there's issues, they're your people. It's like your family. You got to watch out for them. And so it doesn't matter what country you're in how many people you've got on the team, different generations. If your people know you're going to protect them and you've got their back, they will do a lot for you.
Wow, I think there's a lot in what you've just said. In summary, it looks like even going out of the corporate world and applying it to our personal lives, sometimes we blame people for everything, things that were our own faults. We always try to push the blame on other people. And from everything that you said, I believe that sometimes when we take ownership of the wrongs we did, it rather opens our eyes up, and then we can right the wrong rather than pushing the blame onto someone else. Then you never get to correct yourself. You never get to be better. But the moment you own up and accept that, oh, I was wrong here and I shouldn't have done it that way, then is the first step into making corrections and making life better, isn't it?
It so much is. And sometimes the system is flawed, but you still have to work within the system. We may not like all the rules we operate under, but you still got to work within the system. And that's one of the craziest and most courageous things I ever saw someone do in the military was there was an organization that we had inherited. So it wasn't ours, and it got dumped on us, and it was a mess. And about 3 weeks after this transfer, the inspectors showed up. Well, of course, it was a mess. So of course they wanted to fire somebody. So one of the folks on the team said to the boss, he goes, "Put me in charge," so that he could be fired like 2 days later. So the boss was like, "We got to hang somebody out to dry." So he puts the guy in charge. The inspector said, "We have to fire somebody." The guy who just put him in charge fired him 2 days later. So the inspectors are like, "Okay, we checked that block." They left. The person who was supposed to run the organization anyway then got to go back into the organization and did a great job. But here this guy just, he was like, "Look, somebody's got to, show that we're going to do the right thing eventually. So let's just go according to the process." And it was the bravest thing I ever thought. And he was like, "Look, I don't care. It's not going to affect me. And this way we get past it. And so that the right people can do the right thing." And, a lot of people are not willing to sacrifice themselves so that other people can do the right thing. And he was. And sometimes, it's all about making tough decisions in the moment.
Yeah. What are some of the decisions that you had to make back then that you wish you never made those decisions?
Oh, so a few things where I thought, okay, if we can maybe merge this group of people who are doing similar things, that we might achieve a greater economy of scale. But what I learned was just because it works in Singapore doesn't mean it's going to work in London. Just because it works in the Philippines doesn't mean it's going to work in Japan. And so it would be nice if we could have consistency, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. And it would be nice if everybody kind of had the same criteria for success. But when there's people involved, you have to consider the geography. You have to consider where the people are working, what their rules are, what their parameters are. And at the end of the day, we're leading individuals. We're not leading demographics.
Definitely. In your book, Money Smart, you offer practical advice on financial management. Can you share some insight on how entrepreneurs can effectively manage their finances, especially in volatile economic climates?
When things are uncertain and people are in a crisis, sometimes even entrepreneurs, they tend to think they can fix that by spending money. And a lot of us like spending money because it makes us feel good. If you're an entrepreneur and you own the business, you have to know your numbers. And every time you make an expenditure, you have to know that that's going to give you a rate of return. So for my entrepreneurs, I say know your numbers. And for people who say, "But Mary, I cut hair for a living," or, "I run a store," or "I run a dog walking business." I get that. Maybe math is not something you like. I've made it easy for you. At my website, productiveleaders.com/free, there are a ton, totally free. You don't sign in, you don't do anything. You just go grab these things. There are budget sheets. And I know
Mhm.
people don't like the word budget, but it does all the math for you. I can do anybody's budget using these sheets in less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And you just plug in the numbers or you guess at what the numbers are. And then it does the math for you and it maps out for you where you're spending money that you might not want to be spending money, and where you think, oh, that was a really good use of money. Maybe I should put more resources toward that. So there's budgets for your personal life, your business life, and then there's a profit and loss as well. And that profit and loss helps people see every month, am I making a profit, or am I just breaking even, or if I'm losing money? And if you're losing money or just breaking even, then you have to adjust something. Maybe you have to cut down on your expenses. Maybe you have to increase your revenue. If you need to increase your revenue, there's a planner in that same vault of materials, and it will help you kickstart your business into making sure you're able to increase that revenue.
Wow, that's brilliant. And these are some of the goodies you get to hear about when you always listen to podcast with Sheila. And Mary, thank you very much for that one. I guess I'm going to probably, is it a link?
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
productiveleaders.com/free. And everything is free. You don't sign in, it's just right there. Just download everything you want, take it, and grow great businesses and be wealthy.
Wow, we need that. Even in our personal lives, like you said, we need that. We need to budget everything we spend because things are so expensive. Sometimes, it makes it very difficult to live. But I believe that if you have your life organized, then it'll become a bit easier on you, the stress with your expenditure, and you'll be able to plan properly, basically. So that's a very good thing you're offering on this platform. And thank you very much for that.
I, I tell people all the time, you can have anything you want. You just can't have every little thing that you want. You have to figure out what you really want. If you really want a certain car, if you really want a certain house, then that's your focus. But that means you don't get to go to the movies, you don't get to eat out all the time. You have to really focus on what's most important to you.
Definitely. Wow. As a CEO of Productive Leaders, what are the core principles you believe are essential for driving productivity and efficiency within an organization, particularly in today's fast-paced business environment?
That's such a great question, is how do we be more productive every single day? So for me personally, I try to do three things every day. I try to learn something new every day. I try to talk to new people every single day. And sometimes that learning is the podcast. Sometimes the talking to new people can be in a hotel when I'm traveling. It can be anyone. I can always learn from someone else. And the third thing I try to do is just focus on what's most important first thing in the day. So, a lot of people, we wake up in the morning and we waste time. You know what we do? We have coffee, we look at emails, we scroll through our phone, we watch TikTok videos, and we don't get anything done. And all of a sudden, it's 3 hours later, and we look at our to do list, and now we're panicked and we're overwhelmed and we're frustrated with ourselves because we haven't done anything useful. So every single day, I use my 5 minute productivity sheet. It is in the vault of resources, 5 minute productivity. And every single day, I map out what's today's date. Today is Wednesday, April 17th. What do I have to do? What are my appointments? All my to dos by the time. And then I have my follow up, my phone calls, and what I actually have to accomplish. And if I'm going to do it tomorrow, I don't put it on today's list because otherwise my list becomes 150 things. I have to keep my things to do today very manageable. And then I go through and I say, what is the most important thing for me today? Oh, I have podcasts with Sheila. That's the most important thing. So I map out that time. I do my preparation. I try to make sure everything's good. And that becomes the most important thing. So I star that so that that's my priority. So when I wake up, that's my focus. So I don't have to worry about what I'm going to do. A lot of people, especially in business, they think, well, maybe I should do some marketing. Maybe I should do some sales. Maybe. It's the maybe that's the killer.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it. Put it on the list, schedule the time, say, I'm going to make sales calls from 9 o'clock to 9:30. Or there's that one customer that, oh, I'm not sure I'm not sure I really want to talk to them. I'm not sure we're good together, but I'm going to put it on the calendar to make the call. There's always calls we don't want to make. And if you wait till you feel like doing something, you're never going to do it. So you can't do that. You can't rely on feelings for your own success. If you want to get it done, you put it on the calendar, you schedule it, and then when it's 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, That's the thing you do. And that's how you develop discipline. And if you think, well, I don't want to do it, you say, okay, it will take 2 minutes to do that phone call. 2 minutes, get it done now. You know, Otherwise you're going to think about it for 10 days. You could get it done in 2 minutes. What happens if I don't do it right now? Get yourself through all those things in your head. So take action now, schedule it to get it done, and focus on the thing that is going to matter the most.
These are really great tips, Mary. Very, very great tips. And I believe that anybody who chances on this podcast and take their time to listen through to the end is going to take tons of wisdom away with them today. Your book, Stop Procrastinating Tomorrow, addresses a common challenge many people face. Could you share some actionable strategies for overcoming procrastination and boosting productivity in our daily lives? I believe this is quite similar to the answer you're giving, unless there is more you want to add.
There's more. So, this book, I needed something, Sheila, that really resonated with everyone. During COVID, a lot of people took their foot off the gas pedal. They just kind of stopped. They stopped moving forward. They felt sad. They got a little depressed. Some people, I tell people I would get my suntan by opening the refrigerator door and eating. That's not good. That's not
Mm,
good.
yeah.
We just a lot of people really struggled during COVID, and for a lot of people, they're not back yet. So, what I tell people is, that's okay, but now it's your time. Now it's okay to move forward. It's okay to step outside of your comfort zone, and it's okay. And the things that cause us to procrastinate are things like fear of rejection. What if I make that phone call and they don't want to work with me? Or what if I've procrastinated so long, they don't want to work with me? Or what if they decide, I want to go with somebody else? Or what if? It's all these fears that are in our head. So, one of the small tips is you only have to be brave for 10 seconds. You just have to be brave to pick up the phone. You just have to push forward for just 10 seconds and do that. And then all of a sudden you realize that person was really happy to talk to you. That person's excited to work with you. They're excited to hear from you. And, sometimes we look at the phone and we don't want to make that phone call. And I'm like, what are we worried about? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Well, hang on. Is it fear? Is it fear of rejection? Is it fear of success? Are you worried that maybe they're going to want to talk to you for a long time? Are you worried that you're not going to have what they want? But then once we pick up the phone, we find people are a lot nicer sometimes than we give them credit for. People are a lot more forgiving than we give them credit for. And people are good. So, you know what? When we wake up every day and we default to the good, we don't assume the worst. And a lot of people, I think, they're assuming the worst or they're worried about the worst. I say, okay, what's the worst that could happen? They won't want to work with me. Well, are you working with them now? Well, no. Well, then the worst that could happen is exactly status quo. So
Yes.
let's default to the good. What's the best that could come out of this conversation, or taking the trash out, or getting those dishes done that you didn't want to do? What's the best that could happen? Let's default to the good and take action just in those 10 seconds. Just be brave for 10 seconds and take that step forward.
Great. I like that. With your profound understanding of career development and resilience, what advice do you have for individuals navigating career transition or facing setbacks in their professional lives?
So many people say, "Oh, I lost my job, I got fired. I felt like I had to quit. It wasn't the right thing." And they're struggling in their career to really find their good spot. So what I tell people is, what if, this is like when one door opens, another door closes, but it's a little bit more than that. We're all searching for clarity. We're all searching for guidance. And sometimes being fired is the guidance you needed. Sometimes if you weren't fired, you'd stay in that bad job for forever. It's like staying in a bad relationship when you're like, well, it's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. Wait a second. If you're not happy, what are you doing? Either make it happy, make it a good relationship, or get out. And for a lot of people in their career, they just don't. They go, well, it's fine. And I'm like, hang on. You spend 8 to 10 hours a day at work, and then you go home and you sleep for 8 hours, which means you've only got a private life for another like 6 to 8 hours. You're spending most of your awake time at work. And if this is the job you've hated, and you've been telling me how much you hate this job for years and years, them firing you is the best thing that could have happened, because now you have new opportunities. And so every time people say, "Oh, I got fired, I don't know what to do, my career this," I'm like, "Okay, if you had no restraints, no restrictions, and you could do anything you wanted, what would that look like? What would your perfect workday look like?" And we all have an idea of what a perfect workday would look like. We don't always get that, but how do you then work toward that? How do you look at being fired as clarity, as guidance, as, hey, this is a good way to shake you out of that comfort zone and push you toward a better opportunity? And if that next one doesn't work, now you know you can survive not having a job for a little while. So, you know what? You can go find something else. It's just a great opportunity to find real happiness.
Wow, I like that. My brother has been, recently I was talking to him. He said he's been in the banking sector for over 20 years. And in that 20 years, he's gotten his ACCA, his all the banking certificates that should put him on managerial level, but they've never put him there. And as I was talking to him, I told him maybe you have to leave the place because you have all that requires for you to be given a promotion, salary increase, and all of that, and you're not getting it. So it's not giving you satisfaction. And he's very, very unhappy. So I said, then you better think of something else you can do. And I was telling him, don't stress yourself too much. Just look at the things that comes naturally to you. So then probably not maybe banking is not for you, but you've acquired all the knowledge around it because it doesn't make you happy. And as I was speaking to him, he said, I did all the learning for daddy because my father used to give him a lot of pressure as he was the
Mm.
firstborn. So he kept learning, learning, learning. So then you can see totally, completely that l- all all the certificates and everything that he has, he did it because somebody gave him pressure. He is in the banking sector because somebody wanted him to excel, but naturally, he doesn't want to be there. He has a good voice. He is into music and all of those. So I'm telling him, look within and find something that gives you pleasure. For me, I believe that you have to be able to wake up to a job that does not wear you out, that makes you happy. Even when you're tired, you still keep going because it's something you love and you don't feel like you're working. You feel like it's just something else. Something playful you're going about with. So I was telling him, because you are growing, you don't need to stress yourself too much. You keep getting on with different illnesses and all. That's not what you want. So just look for something. But as you talked, it actually kind of sum up what I was telling him and rather threw a better light on it. So I hope you'll be able to watch this and see that what we were talking about is perfectly exactly what you just said here. And I believe a lot of people are going through that lately, really. Yeah.
And I don't know how it was for you growing up, but people would always ask me when I was a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, you don't know. You don't have any idea. Um, I'm going to have a birthday next month, and it's a big one, and I'm not sure what I want to do with the rest of my life either. I think it's probably this, but there's no rules. And so what you said that you wanted to do when you were 7 years old or 12 years old or 18 years old, you don't have to keep doing that when you're 55. You can change jobs. You can change careers. You can move countries. You can have new lives. You can reinvent yourself. You can have new adventures. And all you got to do is be a little bit brave, just a little brave, and take some action.
Wow, that is what we need. Being a little bit brave to take the action. That's what we need. In your speaking style is often described as engaging and motivational. Can you share some techniques or approaches you use to connect with and inspire your audience during speaking engagements?
I love speaking to groups, big and small. And I spent about 25 years in the military. Well, a lot of people have no idea what that's like. The military, it's less than 1% of people in the US have ever been in the military or even know people in the military. It's not that common. So instead, I ask people who has a dog, who has a cat, and people raise their hands. And then I say, well, who's got big dogs? Who's got small dogs? Who's got a quiet cat? Who's got an adventurous cat? And the whole idea, and then I work that into a talk. You ask questions that people can say yes to. Yet,
Mm.
the yes. And then I say, well, who's never had a pet? Again, I'm looking for the yes answer. I'm just looking for people to feel included. I'm looking for people to get the idea so that when when I talk about having a crisis of losing a parent, having a crisis of losing a spouse, having a crisis of changing jobs, having a crisis of being fired, having a crisis of being bankrupt, I can say, I understand. I've been there. I get it. I get it. I've been there. And all of a sudden, the idea is to relate to other people. If I say, let's talk about money, the first thing they want to know is, have you ever been poor? And the answer is yes. I've been poor, because otherwise they can't relate to you. People have to relate to us. And so, in order for us to get our message across, people have to go, okay, it looks like she's got things put together now, but she didn't always. Now, how can I, take a few little nuggets and maybe push myself forward a little bit? Or what can I learn? We're all learning from each other. So I just try to make it easy for people to relate to me, and I want to relate to them and then provide some nuggets that they can use right away.
Great. As an esteemed author of 18 influential books, how do you approach the process of writing and researching content that resonates deeply with your readers?
My dad, before he passed away a few years ago, used to say, Mary, how do you write so many books? He said, do you just like sit down and start writing? I'm like, no, Dad. No, that's not how this works. It's all about discipline. If you want to write a book, I'm going to tell your audience, you can write a book in 3 months, 90 days. It takes 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. In 15 minutes a day, you can write 2 pages. If you write 15 minutes a day for 90 days, that's a 180-page book. Boom, there's your book. But you have to do it every single day. It's like taking your vitamins every single day. It's like exercising every single day. We manage to eat, most of us, every single day. So wouldn't it be great if we could take 15 minutes and write? Or if you're not a good writer, that's okay. You know what you do? You get somebody on the phone like this and you say, today I want to talk about 5 ways to motivate people when they're really struggling with motivation, or 5 ways I can connect with millennials, or 5 ways I can get more things done. And you have the conversation with somebody else, and then you record that conversation and you transcribe it, and there's your 2 pages. So if you want to get something done, it's all about the discipline. I used to tell my dad, Dad, it's not magic. It's me putting myself in my chair at my desk every day for 15 minutes. And that is how you write books. That is how I get things done. Um, Stephen Pressfield, who's a very famous author, told me one time, he said, the muse, the Greek inspiration, the muses, they strike every single morning at 9 a.m. when I put my butt in that chair and start writing. And even if you can't think of anything, just the mere act, the habit of you sitting down to do it, after a while, your body goes, oh, this is our time to write. And your brain and your body will take over. You can have your own book in 90 days.
Wow. I want to have a book. I think I've said this for years. And every time I think about it, I'm thinking, oh, there's this to do, there's that to do, there's that to do. But as you made it sound very, very easy. In 15 minutes, everybody can spend 15 minutes. They can spare 15 minutes. 15 minutes you're on social media watching something that is not going to benefit us. Something that 15 minutes you just talked about, we can use it to do something productive. And for me, writing a book it looks like something possible after talking to you, so I'm going to see how I can put my 15 minutes a day into practice and see if in the next 3 months I'll be having a book to show for it. I'll be very excited if I can do that. Seriously. Yeah. Your work spans various themes from leadership to personal development. What motivates you to explore such diverse topics? And how do you ensure consistency in delivering valuable insights across different subjects?
So I like to think that my world is kind of an umbrella. It's an umbrella. And so in that umbrella is it's leadership. Because as leaders, and we're all leaders, people are looking at us and they're cueing off of us. So under leadership, you might have business growth, you might have productivity, you might have finances, you might have marketing and sales and podcasting and book writing. But everything to me is under this umbrella of leadership. So for me, as long as I approach everything as, and sometimes I have to ask myself the question, what would a good leader do in this situation? Because look, I get frustrated too. I get frustrated when, technology doesn't work like it should, or I'm like, I'm dumb. Why is this not working? I have to go, okay, now if I was a good leader today, what would I do? I'm like, okay, I would settle down, I would find a solution, I would move forward in that regard. And I believe that I've been very lucky in my life. I was in the military. My two brothers and my sister, they were all in the military too. We all spent over 100 years combined in the military, and all of us came back. Like that to me is a huge gift, you know? And what I always say is to whom much is given, much is expected. You know, you've heard that before,
Yeah.
but I really believe that. I'm like, look, by the happy accident of birth, I got to be born in the United States. There's other places where I would not have these opportunities because my parents strongly believed in education and they pushed us to read early. I developed a love for books. That's a gift. That's not something I can take credit for. That is a gift. And when you have gifts, a lot is expected. So I have to wake up every single day with gratitude and humility. And then I got to kick myself in the butt and get things going because I've been given a lot.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you. Wow. Leading multicultural teams requires sensitivity to cultural differences. Hmm. Can you share a moral experience or challenge you faced whilst managing teams from different cultural backgrounds and how you effectively address this? This I want to hear your answer to.
So I spent 17 years in Asia where lots of people do not look like me.
Yeah,
Lots of people have very different cultural things.
yeah,
And when you are that person who doesn't look like everybody else, sometimes people make assumptions. Sometimes people have a bias. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And what I learned is most people are good. Most people really are. And you have to go, it's more than 50%. I think when you lead in different cultures, it's kind of like it's kind of like being in a good marriage or a good relationship. You can't just say, well, I'm going to do my 50%. It's not that way. In a good marriage, both people have to give 100%.
yeah,
In a good friendship, both people have to give 100%. If you're going to lead teams, you have to go more than 50%. You have to show up and be sensitive and be caring and be kind and show people that, hey, you might have an idea of what somebody who is in my position or who looks like me or talks like me or whatever is like. And I just want you to have a really positive impression of me. I want you to feel good about working with me. I want you to be happy because we got this time together. And I love that. It means sometimes you have to try things that make you a little uncomfortable. When I was in Korea, they eat fish for breakfast. And I'm a coffee person in the morning, sometimes tea, but I don't eat anything in the morning. I don't like food in the morning. I
yeah.
don't like toast. I don't like and so I'm I'm trying to be kind, I'm trying to be polite, and it's their culture. And they show up with dried fish in the morning. And that is the last thing I wanted for breakfast. But I'm like, you know what? I'm in their world and I'm eating the fish. Like you just do it. You do the
Yeah,
things
yeah.
and you try things and you try new things and maybe you don't love it, but that's okay. You tried. And I think trying is a big part of it. I think when we make the effort and we don't make a huge deal of it, I think that's really important. We have to show up and be the best version of ourselves so that other people can see that best version, even when you don't want to, even when you don't feel like it, and even when you don't want the fish for breakfast.
That is a very tricky one. And sometimes, so many times, I found myself in that situation. Somebody sees you and they are like, oh, what has she got to share? What has she got that will be of any benefit to me, just by the mere sight of you? And every time I see that, I'm very humbled because then I know that definitely because I've encountered it too many times, I know what the outcome has always been. So then I know that definitely before the end of the session or the period of meeting or whatever it is, their concept and their idea about me when they first met me is going to definitely change. And one, I think in this week, I've encountered that twice. And one of them, I had to meet somebody, and because my name is Sheila, and sometimes when people hear Sheila is a very English name. So
Mhm.
people don't expect, and when you're dealing with emails and things, behind your name, people don't expect to see me. So when I show up and I show up as me, it's a bit, oh, you get that before later on, as you start dealing with them and talking to them and the questions keep going on, then they become a bit settled and know, oh yeah, we can trust that. And this week I've had to step in one of my workshops, and I believe as I step in, some of the ladies were a bit, but at the end of it, oh, it was the best. This is the best workshop we've ever had. And that it was a totally different things. But I think that as human beings, as we are, and the way systems and other things have made it, sometimes we prejudge even before we give somebody the opportunity to know what they have to offer or what we can take from them, rather than thinking we can't take anything from this one. What has she got to share? What has she got to offer? What does she know? And what can she give me? Is a waste of time, that kind of thing. So I'm very excited by the angle you had come from and the way you've dealt with things. Try to be like them, kind of, to soften the spot, isn't it? To make them feel relaxed and know that you're here for them and all of that before you come in. But I totally agree with you on that point. And I believe that a number of people were also waiting to hear your response to this question, because I believe they are dealing with so much as well.
I think it's so important that we show up. And when we, in our heart, have the intent to share and give, people figure that out really
Yeah,
fast. Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Last but not least, how do you envision the role of inspiration and positivity in today's world? And what impact do you hope your work, including your presence on today's podcast, will have on spreading these messages?
I think we're all here to build each other up. I think we are all here to infuse each other with a sense of positivity and inspiration and love and light, but also tactical tools, like really practical things, like the profit loss statement, like the budget, like all the free resources, like the productivity thing. We're really here to help each other. And people all the time say, "Well, why do you just give stuff away?" I'm like, because I have it. Why wouldn't I give it away? If I can use it and it's going to help somebody else's life, why wouldn't I want to give that away? I think that's where it is. And then if I need something and then somebody goes, "Oh, I've got this thing," I'm kind of expecting a share too. And when we all get to show up every single day, and we all have bad days. That's when we need those other positive people. We need those friends who are going to wake up and go, "You know what, Sheila? You're beautiful and you're smart and you are fun. And I just learned so much from you." Like, sometimes we need that too. And I think we all do. So some of us need it less than others. Some of us need it more than others, and that's okay. But we're really here to build each other up and give each other that push forward. In the United States, we have a sport where they race cars, and one of the things the cars will do is they get behind each other, and you're going 180 miles an hour, and they will. It's called bump drafting, and they will get behind another car, and the lack of drag means the car behind can go faster, and it will actually push the car in front of it to go forward. It's called bump drafting. It's how you give your teammates a push forward. And I think we're all here to bump draft each other. We're all here to get behind each other. And if you're a little slow that day, we're here to give you that push.
Yeah. What will your final message be to our listeners as we wrap up?
Show up every single day the best you can with the very best intent of your heart to inspire and influence and help other people. And if you do that, things will probably work out okay. Now you got to work hard too, but I think the intention every single day and how we start the day is really important.
Great. As we draw the curtain to a close, we'd like to say a massive thank you, Dr. Mary Kelly, for sharing your wealth of wisdom and insight with us today. Your journey for leading multicultural teams to empowering individuals to overcome procrastination and achieve their goals serves as a beacon of inspiration for us all. Remember, in every challenge lies the opportunity for growth, and with determination and resilience, we can turn our dreams into reality. Stay motivated, stay positive, and remember to always strive for excellence. Until we meet again, keep spreading positivity and chasing your dreams. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.